So if you've got the problem right now that your sales are slower than you want them to be, you're not growing as fast as you want, and in turn, that means you don't know what to fix, you're becoming less profitable, and it's causing more stress, it's keeping you up at night, then I've got a solution for that. I'm going to share it with you, and it's called the BDA Customer Journey Method. So, very, very simple process to understand, harder to execute. So, BDA Customer Journey Method is before, during, and after. So, what we mean by that is what happens before someone buys in your customer journey, what happens during that buying process, and then what happens after the buying process. So a lot of the time businesses don't take the time to understand, okay, what caused the sale to happen in the first place? What was that person thinking about before they had the idea of buying the product? Because let's be honest, most of the time you don't just wake up one morning and go, I want to buy this product. There's something that's led up to that happening. And then also looking at what's happening after as well. So think of it like this, right? The before section is firstly, the customer needs to identify a need, right? So for them to identify that need, it usually comes from maybe to start off with, they're not even problem aware. So when they're not problem aware, they're just kind of going, something feels a bit off. I'd like my life to be better, but I didn't realize this was actually the problem. I thought it was something else, right? So it might be your foot hurts, right? And you think you've got an ingrowing toenail, but it's actually you've got poor shoes. But you didn't know you got poor shoes at that time because you didn't understand what the actual problem was, right? Now, if then you see an ad that says, feel like your big toe's really hurting, typically because your shoes are not fitting correctly, and here's the science behind it. Huh, right? Now I've just been educated on the problem. So then once you got the problem, what happens next? Well, you start researching the options, right? And if you look at how things are nowadays versus how they used to be before, maybe you go, I've got this problem. I'm gonna go to a shop and see if I can find a solution to it. Now, what do? Well, you go and look at blogs that someone has already solved the problem. You'll look at other people's reviews on the thing. You'll start researching different options around that, right? So then at that point, you ask yourself the question, is the product suitable? So, and what is suitable? Well, it means, is it going to solve my problem? Because if it doesn't solve the problem, then you're not going to buy it, right? And it's not even the fact that it actually solves the problem. The key thing of this is, do I think by buying this, it will solve my problem? Because you may have the best product in the world, but if the person landing on your website, going into a brick and mortar store, speaking to you on the phone, whatever it is, if they don't believe that that product is the best product in the world that will solve their specific problem, they will not buy. So what do they do at that point? They continue to research. They go somewhere else. They start looking around again. They go with one of your competitors. And what does that mean? Your sales slow down, and then you're like, I don't know why. I don't know why sales have slowed down. It's because someone else is eating your lunch, right? So that's what's happening before, and we're going to go through how you fix that part. The next part is during. So when they actually get onto your page, when they consider buying and they purchase the product, what is that experience like? What's happening in that experience at that moment that gets them to buy? Is it a certain word, phrase? Is it a certain part of the offer? Is it the fact that there's some know, like, and trust there? And is there certain guarantees? Like, what is the thing that gets someone over the line to get them to purchase? How do you find that out? Speak to your customers. Like, what was it that made you want to buy this today? Oh, it's because of this. And quite often, a lot of the time, it isn't the thing that you expect it to be. And then the after part. So do they actually use the product? If they don't use the product, they haven't got the outcome. So what does that mean? They've invested money with you, right? They invest that money with you, and then on the other side, you're now not getting the outcome. So they're not going to buy from you again. They're very much less likely to buy from you. So if you went and spent £150 on a toothbrush, right? Significant amount for a toothbrush because you can pick them up for like £2. But if you got one with all the bells and whistles on it, and then it just sat in a drawer, next time you went to make a big tech purchase like that for a household good, like, you know, a shaver or something like that, you'd probably go, actually, last time I spent that amount, I didn't use it. So guess what? They don't buy it again. And that changes their buying criteria for buying other products in the future. So it's important that once they buy the product, they use the product. And when they're using the product, if they've got issues, what happens? Are you offering world-class customer service? Or is someone having to follow up with you multiple times in order to get even access to what they wanted to get access to? And I'll give you a great example. This morning, I got an email come through from a company, and I won't name names, but I got an email through from a company. They put a nice little offer together. It's like, you can have one-on-one coaching to help you grow your YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, it was a very reasonable price. I was considering buying it. So I clicked on the link, and guess what? It just opened up with their logo, and it had nothing else on there. So their actual back end part of the software wasn't working properly. So what did I do? I go, well, I ain't got time to go back and forth with these guys and figure it out. I was curious, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so invested. So I just left the page, never to be seen again, right? Now, that was like 150 a month or something like that. So let's say I stayed there for a year. Well, let's say 10 months, just because easy maths, right? So 150 a month times by 10, that's 1,500 they've lost in seconds. Why? Because they didn't test the buying experience and understand where people are dropping off. So if they'd mapped that journey out and gone, wait a minute, people are coming to this page, but they're bouncing off after 10 seconds, probably need to look at fixing that. We had this with the client the other week when we suddenly saw we actually moved our funnels to another platform because we wanted to put it into, it's had better integrations and stuff. So we moved the funnel, and when the funnel got moved, there was a cookie banner that was coming up and it's actually covering the majority of the page. So what that meant was people were having a bad buying experience going to the page. Now, it didn't get caught in QA because the team putting it together had already accepted cookies, so they weren't seeing that, right? But then when we started running live traffic, then we had to dig back through the data and we all got on as a team and went, okay, what's causing this to happen? So then we started watching back the visitor recordings, and as we watched the visitor recordings, what we found was, hey, this cookie banner was like covering pretty much the whole page. So people just going to the page going, I don't know what this is, and then leaving, right? Because there was no context there. So those kind of things make a massive difference. And guess what? As soon as we sorted that out, like the opt-in rate went through the roof, and we've actually had higher opt-in rates than we've ever had before because we tried everything else as well to get that opt-in rate up. And we actually fixed another problem as we were going along. So that's the during piece. When you think about the after piece, if they're not satisfied with the product, what is our customer service like? Like, do you just fix it? I used to work at Greg's, and they had something called the LEAF procedure, right? So it was listen, empathize, apologize, fix it now. I still remember that now. I haven't worked there for 10 years, but I could still remember that process. Why? Because it was very clear and easy to understand, and they empowered the team. As long as you're not spending thousands to fix it. But if it was like, look, just give them a free coffee, just give them a free cake, it's okay. Why? Because they knew that the lifetime customer value of that customer was more important than like nickeling and diming over one sale. So think of it like this, right? If a customer comes in and they spend on average £5 per day, spend £5 per day, 5 times a week, maybe they just come and buy, a lunch, or maybe they buy breakfast. That's £25 a week, right? £25 a week, that's £100 a month. That customer's worth £1,200 per year. Let's say they've been coming into that store for 5 years. That customer's worth £6,000, right? So what happens is a lot of time we look at the current transaction. We don't look at the future transaction. We don't look at all the lifetime customer value. So it's a lot cheaper to keep that customer than it is to go and get a new one. Another example, again, I'm not going to name names on this. There was a marketer that I respect. I'm on their email list and started reading through their emails. They're sending emails every day. And I was like, actually, this is really good stuff. I think I'm going to go ahead and purchase, right? So I'll reach out to him and say, hey, I noticed when I got to the checkout, it doesn't mention how much the shipping is for this for my country. Their response was not a very polite one, really. It was basically like, doesn't matter. It was like, well, it matters to me. And guess what? I didn't purchase. Again, probably would have spent $1,500 with them, if not more. Now, how many customers are they missing out on because of that? They may not care, right? They may be like, do you know what? I'm making enough money in it anyway. However, if you have that attitude in life, eventually that can catch up with you, right? So treat every customer like it's your last customer, and then the after service is going to be better. Because what do you really want? You want others, people who purchased, recommending your product. So things like ads should be an accelerator on what's already working, not you run ads and then that's it, right? You're always looking for new customers. Your customers should be bringing you new customers because you offer a great product and a great service. So that's how the before, during, and after work. So let's just break it down in a little bit more detail of some of the questions that you might want to ask at each stage of the journey to refine this customer journey. So when we look at the before, so what triggers them to initially look for a solution? What is that trigger? What's that one thing? How do you find out? You ask your customers, right? Number two, what is the priority pain? So when I say the priority pain, there's loads of pains that people have that encourage them to buy. But what's the priority? So if you were to list them all down, what would be the number one that comes up all the time? And here's where you can end up with false data. It's not always the one that comes up the most. Sometimes it's the one that's the deepest, right? So if you look at your highest lifetime customer value customers, the ones who have got the biggest pain, right? They're the ones that you want to look at from a priority pain perspective. Instead of just going, well, everyone's got this pain, so that's what I'm going to focus on my attention on. It actually, you want to focus on the ones that get people to buy, right? So ask yourself that question. On the during, you want to be looking at what is their buying criteria, right? Do they need to know, like, and trust you beforehand? Yes, they do, but how quickly can you build that rapport, right? What do they need to know, like, and trust you? What are their objections to purchasing, right? And typically it comes into 4 buckets: time, money, effort, sacrifice. I've got loads of other videos that go into that in more detail. But think about what are their objections to purchasing. And then where do they get stuck in the buying process? So if they're on the page, are they getting stuck on the landing page? Are they getting stuck on the checkout page? Are they getting stuck where they're not buying any upsells, right? where is it in that journey that they're not consuming the thing? Is it maybe even they're not watching the video that you put on the page, that like you might have this best brilliant video, but the first 5 seconds doesn't hook the person in and they're just not watching it. Or maybe the play controls don't work properly and they're trying to click play and it's not working. You don't know unless you like start looking at the visitor recordings. You can use things like Microsoft Clarity, absolutely free, and you can watch those visitor recordings. You can look at heat maps as well to see how far people are scrolling on the page. And then you can also use things like Hotjar that have got some other advanced stuff in there, which is a paid version. Now, then the after, what would make them raving fans? What would make them tell all their friends and family about how amazing your product is? And here's the key. A good product will quite often get you a second sale. Good service will get you a third, a fourth, and a fifth. So good marketing will get you first sale, right? That gets you the first date. Second sale comes from a good product. Third, fourth, fifth sale comes from great service. So how can you create great service to create raving fans? Ask yourself the question, how can we reduce refunds to 0%? So if you're looking at the reasons for refunds right now, what are those reasons and how can you reduce those down significantly? So again, like the priority pain, look at ordering them in what is the reason that's coming up the most and look to solve that one first. Is it an expectations gap? Right? Is there something going on where they think they're going to get this and then when it actually comes, it doesn't look like that? Is it the fact that you are overhyping the marketing? Is it the fact that the product just doesn't live up to what it said it's going to do? Right? So, and then what is the onboarding like? Do they actually use the product? Are you encouraging them to use the product? Because if you're not encouraging them to use the product and you just go, there you go, they're not going to come back again, right? Or the likelihood of them coming back is less. So the more you give people that opportunity there to buy, and then once they've bought, make the best user experience, everything else becomes clear. I'll give you another example. When we were selling bridesmaids dresses back in the day, we used to send a personal video message to every single person who bought. And not just people who bought the dresses, people who bought a sample, right? One piece of material for like, I think we sold it for like £4.95 or something like that. And we'd send that out to them and then they'd go and buy all the dresses after that once they knew the quality of the material. So what I'd do, I'd do a personal video message to each one. Why would I do that? Because I knew my competitors weren't doing that, right? So we could compete with all these bigger companies out there because they were just kind of like, oh, you know, there's your sample, thank you. And then we started ordering the samples from all the competitors as well and going, okay, what's good about theirs? How can we make ours better? So one of the things as well that we added in, because we found out we had a multi-way dress. So a multi-way dress basically means you've got two straps on it. You can pull straps in multiple different ways, right? You can put it over one shoulder, two shoulders, all that kind of stuff. There was 18 different ways you could wear it. The problem was people didn't know how to do it, right? So we found out one of the biggest objections in the purchasing, and we made the after-sale experience better because we actually put together a ways to wear guide, got it printed off and shipped it out with the dress, right? And we put it in a nice box. So the dress goes in a box, comes with a ways to wear guide. So we had it like the education piece going on and everything as well. And we just made it a great experience. And, you know, because we'd send them that video, then a lot of those brides would reply and we'd build connection with them. And then we'd add them to our Facebook community as well. We'd answer their questions every single week as well on a Facebook Live called Toss the Tiara. So basically every time we answered a question, we toss the tiara up in there. It was kind of like a drop the mic kind of show, but for weddings, right? So we created a great customer experience where after they bought, a lot of those people already knew, like, and trust us before they bought, but the ones who didn't know us as much, they did afterwards, and then it can help reduce those refunds down overall. And now in the fashion space, you still can have a higher refund rate. just because, you know, it's fashion, personal taste, and all that kind of stuff. That being said, ours was still lower than the industry norm, right? So overall, creating that after sale experience and creating that best customer journey there will really help. So think about this today is write down what is the before, during, and after, and how can you make the best buying experience that triggers their attention, then creates the best buying experience on the page, and then creates the best after sale experience that reduces refunds and makes people raving fans. Enjoy, like, and subscribe. I'll catch up with you soon.